And welcome back, everybody. Or welcome, everybody. I don't know why I say welcome back, everybody, when some people may not have listened to an episode before.
Yeah.
So I should just say welcome, everybody.
Yes.
Because, these things not necessarily recurring, are they? And recurring is kind of the theme of the podcast today, isn't it?
That's a lovely segue, Pirate.
Eh?
Like
See what I did there?
Yeah, I did.
Quite clever. But anyway, Josh is taking the lead on today's episode. He's got a really interesting one for us. We've been discussing it all day, and I think we've found a good way of laying it out for you. Do you want to introduce what we're doing today, Josh?
Hell yeah, man. Today we are doing people who faked their own deaths.
Ooh, why would you do it?
I know. It's a mysterious one, isn't it?
It is. I guess there's all sorts of reasons that people do it, isn't there?
Yeah. Mainly bankruptcy and insurance fraud.
Yeah,
but
monetary gains, I think, most prevalently.
Yeah, but it's an interesting one. And I kind of I wouldn't say I got obsessed with it, but when I was a teenager, I was really into conspiracy theories and stuff like that. And it kept coming up, and it always just kind of interested me because I had the same kind of views where I was like, why would you do that? Why would you fake your own death? What's the benefit of it? And surely it's more negative, and it affects the people around you more than the actual person.
Surely it does, yeah.
So I thought, you know what? Let's investigate it.
Okay,
let's go for it.
Let's jump in.
So, I think we're going to kick off, mate, with people that have faked their death but got caught.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I know the guy that you're talking about.
So, yeah, the first guy that I'm going to mention is probably the most famous case of it happening.
The most famous failure.
Yeah, the most famous failure of faking your own death is a man called John Darwin.
Yes.
And you've seen the TV show.
I have, yeah. Very good show.
For those that don't know, it's The Thief, the Wife, and the Canoe.
Yeah.
And to sum it up, a guy fakes his own death.
Yeah.
So,
Well, he is on the verge of bankruptcy, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's like a landlord, and he's just got a normal job, and obviously all these houses that he's got to try and support and run, and whether he's got tenants in them or not, obviously he's still got to pay his mortgage on it, and he ends up, like you say, going bankrupt. And then when his wife turns to him and says, well, what do you want to do about it? He's like, well, I think it's obvious. I'm going to fake my own death.
Yeah.
So, yeah, do you want me to carry on? Or are you gonna
go for it. Go
so,
for it.
yeah, I remember him having this quite elaborate plan where he gets a canoe.
Yep.
And like, his wetsuit and all that sort of thing. And he makes a big deal out of him deciding to go canoeing in the estuary or out in the sea or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just off the coast.
Towards the end of the day, he's doing it sort of in the dying light and in twilight, isn't he?
Yeah, things are getting dark.
And then he sort of just ejects his canoe, lets that go back towards the shore, and then swims back at a different location, climbs out, and then goes and, I can't remember where he holds up to start with, but he ends up sort of on the phone to his wife going, yeah, I've done it, and she's like, oh no, there's no turning back now, sort of thing. And then eventually he ends up moving into one of his own houses next door to where he used to live, and still no one figures it out for a while, do they?
Yeah. And it starts going wrong because the two eldest sons start thinking...
Yeah, they start realising something's a bit wrong.
Yeah, like their mum starts acting a bit weird. Obviously, she's going to act weird because her husband's not actually dead. So they catch on, and yeah, that's basically it. He got caught. He turned up, I think it was 5 years later, something like that. Five years later.
Yeah, it's a good time later, yeah.
And he got arrested, and not only that, his wife got arrested.
Yeah.
6 years and 3 months for him.
Yeah.
And because she lied to the police and did a bit more...
So misleading the course of justice was added to her charge.
Yeah, she actually got more time than he did.
yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's actually the most
They
famous.
nearly got away with it as well, didn't they?
Very nearly,
Because the insurance money ended up paying them enough that they could actually offload some of the houses that were weighing them down. And that they ended up, really quite well off, and they were going to migrate, weren't they? Where were they migrating
they were
to?
heading off to Panama.
Panama, that's
start
right.
a new life. And the insurance claim was $250,000.
Right, yeah. So just enough to set the ball rolling, and then obviously with the sale of their houses, and then they plan to migrate. And wasn't it something silly like the mortgage broker in Panama insisted on taking a photo of them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was it for a local newspaper or something like that? And that got back to England, and then the English authorities tracked them down, didn't they?
Yeah. And I think I read as well. I ddid read that he changed his name, but it wasn't that dissimilar. I'm pretty sure he still used the name.
He was still
John.
using John, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
And his wife was still using the same. Well,
Anne.
yeah.
So not the brightest of sparks.
No.
But they got caught. They served their time, and I think they're still around today.
I believe they are. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was a good attempt, to be fair.
Yeah, I do believe they got disowned by their children for going through all that trauma.
Yeah, they weren't happy.
They weren't happy at all. But you can check that out TV series wise. I'm pretty sure it was on ITV Catch Up or something. Like that,
Yeah, I can't remember what channel it was on. It was a good show, and it is worth watching for anyone out there who wants to check it out. If you obviously can get access to UK TV, check that one out. It is good.
Yeah, buddy. So I thought I'd give you some more people that tried to fake their death.
More people.
And got caught. Yeah, so this guy, you probably wouldn't have heard of him, Timothy Dexter. So if you're from Massachusetts, if you're from the early 1800s, you would have heard of him. So he dropped out of school at the age of 8. He was very, very rich. And I'm pretty sure he was born into it.
Right.
From what the research
born into
says.
money.
And so basically, he wanted the limelight. He wanted to be famous. He started calling himself a lord. After facing years of disapproval, he decided it was time to see how everyone really felt about him. So he faked his own death and organised his own funeral.
I bet he turned up to see how many people wanted to pay their respects, didn't he?
Yeah, he certainly did, mate. Again, you've done it. You're in my head.
Yeah, but that's just like if I've got no plans to fake my own death, but if I did, I'd have to do that.
Yeah, you'd want to see.
You'd want to see who turns up to your own funeral, wouldn't you?
Yeah, 100%.
That's why some people these days are starting to do living funerals, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like when they realise that they're only like a year or two away from their death, they start organising their funeral party and have it so that they can see exactly what response their funeral gets.
Yeah, and in some places, I'm pretty sure it's Mexico, you can do an embalming of a body after you've passed. So there's actually pictures. You can check this out. So say, for example, there's a guy called Frank and he loves his motorbikes and he passes away.
Yeah.
The family can pay this company to embalm him and they'll sit him on a motorbike at the funeral with sunglasses. And
embalm him riding his motorbike.
Yeah. And that's kind of like an open casket of him doing what he loves. And
Yeah, kind of. But surely they can't bury him with the motorbike, surely.
I'm not sure what happens afterwards, but the pictures are creepy.
Because as far as I know, I'm not an expert on this at all, but as far as I know, when you're embalmed, that's it. You're rigid. You know, like rigor mortis. They try and move your arms again, they're going to snap them off. You know what I mean? So if you're embalmed riding a motorbike, that's it. That's the position you're getting buried
You're
in.
stuck. You'd have to have an extra big casket.
Yeah.
So Dexter was spotted at the back of his own funeral and got caught. So everyone disapproved. He lost all of his social status.
Didn't do a very good disguise then, did he?
No, he didn't. So that's the story of Dexter. You got another guy here, John Stonehouse. This is the UK. He was a member of Parliament, and he decided to fake his own death. He wanted to start a new life with his mistress, and he'd been caught in a series of fraudulent businesses. So he pretended to drown while he was in Miami in 1970, and then he escaped to Australia under the name Joseph Markham. But his bad deeds caught up to him, and he was caught by the police and returned to Britain the next year. He was found guilty and served a short time in prison before being released.
So he faked his death to get out of a prison sentence.
Essentially, yeah, because he was going to go down for all of this
Fair
corruption,
play.
basically.
Fair play.
He was...
I guess that's another reason for doing it then, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, and what you'll find as this podcast goes on is there's various reasons as to why people fake their own death. But a lot of it comes back to money or crime, if you know what I mean. So I won't spend too much time reading all of these. I'm just going to go through the interesting ones. Now, this one I thought about skipping because it's a name that I'm going to struggle with, but I'm going to give it a go because I found it interesting. Igor Vorotinov. So, one of the most famous cases of fake death in the past few years is the case of Igor Vorotinov. This Minnesota man took out an insurance policy on his own life in 2010. Police in his home country of Moldova reportedly identified a dead body as Vorotinov, leading to a $2 million insurance payout to the family. There was even a memorial service held by his family in his honor. Just 3 years later, the FBI received a tip that he faked his own death and was now alive in Ukraine with a new name. Agents found recent photos on his son's laptop, leading to his charge in 2015. So he got away with it for 5 years.
But again, the mistake these people make is trying to stay in contact with their family and friends after they've done it, isn't it, really? Because that's what brings the proof about, that brings the police and...
Yeah. And I suppose it would be so tough to let go of everything. Because if you are faking your death, you would have to cut all connections.
Yeah, you've got to. Yeah.
You've got to. Otherwise, you are just going to get caught. As you'll see with all of these people. So, I'll give you another one. Belle Gunnis. This one's interesting. A bit of true crime in this one. So, one of the most notorious celebrities who faked her own death in the early 20th century is Belle Gunnis, known as Lady Bluebeard.
Right.
I first researched it and I thought it said Lady Bluebird. No, it says Lady
Bluebeard. Right,
yeah.
Okay.
But we like beards around here.
Yeah, we do. We're very pro-beard.
Now, this one is slightly different because she is estimated to have murdered anywhere between 40 and 180 people during her lifetime.
Wow.
So instead of prosecution, she staged her own death by fire. So while she seemed to be dead after her lifetime of killing those who came into her life, her hired hand claims she escaped without any harm. Though a headless body was found on the property, he insisted this belonged to the housekeeper. For years, people across the United States claimed to see her out and about.
Huh.
So she got away with it.
I'm almost more fascinated by the fact that she murdered so many people. I mean, very few people in history have been attributed with killing over 40 people.
Yeah.
Apart from, like, dictators and, you know, like Stalin or whatever, Hitler.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, individuals don't normally get away with that many murders. Even serial killers. Ted Bundy didn't even get, you know.
It's quite a difference, though, isn't it? 40 and 180.
Yeah.
That's quite a lot. But I'd never heard of her before. And if we were a true crime podcast, we could delve into her a bit more.
Oh, definitely we would, yeah.
Because it is quite interesting. And I assume with the name Belle, female.
Yeah.
Lady Bluebeard.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Which is also interesting because you don't really hear of many female serial killers. Most of them are male.
No, I can only think of a handful of female serial killers.
So, I'll give you one more. William Groth. This is the last one I'll give of people kind of getting caught. So, William Groth rose to fame after not only faking his own death, but also claiming to be his own murderer. Groth called the police, posing as a murderer, and claimed to have killed someone. His car was found in Nashville Park, and his belongings were left in front of a home and along a riverbank as a way to strengthen his story. However, the police noticed some things didn't add up. All of his discarded items had his identification on him to point police in the right direction, but it just didn't seem right. Once it was discovered that he had $1 million life insurance policy...
That's a bit of a giveaway, isn't it?
Yeah. He was arrested and sentenced to a 5-year probation. While he cost the authorities numerous resources in searching for him, it turns out that it isn't a crime to fake your own death, according to this article. So,
well, I guess some countries it is and some it isn't it?
Yeah, I imagine it's probably the fraud that comes with it.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean, that they're probably getting done for, but trying to fake. I know there's a South Park episode where Butters fakes his own death by throwing a pig off of a roof.
Right.
And they just dress it up in his clothes, and then when it hits the floor and splatters, they all just start screaming and assuming it's him, and it's absolutely ridiculous. But that's all the examples I've got of people that faked their death and got caught, basically. But obviously John Darwin being the most famous. So,
well, we got to start with the rabble that we just didn't do a very good job, really, don't we?
yeah,
And move on from there.
yeah, and I think one thing that I've researched as well is to be able to fake your own death. It's very clear that you need a lot of kind of money or cash to be able to pull it off successfully.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. So this is a good segue.
Yeah, because like in the case of John Darwin, doing it for an insurance payout is obviously sooner or later it's going to bite you in the buttocks, and
Yeah.
you need some kind of capital behind you to start your new life without relying on that payout. So ideally, if you were going to be faking your own death, like you say, cut all ties, let your family have the payoff from the insurance, let them live the rest of their lives on their own, completely separate to you, while you've got some little next egg tucked away that you can start your new...
Yeah, 100%.
You make a new start with, you know?
Yeah. And it's like, I've always thought, well, not always thought, it wasn't until I started researching, I thought, how would I go about faking my own death? And I couldn't think of a way, because one, I get very homesick, and I would be that person that's like trying to talk to my wife or whatever. But I actually couldn't think of a way.
A plausible way of doing it.
Like
And getting away with it.
Yeah, because when I started research, I thought John Darwin probably had the best idea, and even he got caught after 5 years. Because the ocean, you could easily pretend that you drowned.
Yeah, no body, no proof that you didn't kill yourself.
But all these people that kind of did it for the wrong reasons.
Modern day like DNA testing and stuff like that, if your DNA is on record anywhere, and you try and throw a pig off a roof, it's not going to work, is it?
No. So if anyone's thinking about faking their own death by
Don't use a pig.
It's just not worth it. It's not going to happen. It's not going to work for you.
And it's cruel to the pig.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Don't go around just killing pigs randomly, people, okay? Trying to fake your own death, use something else.
Yeah. And cut off all ties, otherwise you will get caught. So I thought I'd segue into kind of, I suppose they're more celebrities or famous people.
Pop culture.
Pop culture.
You love your little pop culture section.
I do. And I will say there was a couple of, because we're going into conspiracy theory territory now.
Sort of, yeah.
There was a couple of celebrities that people think are still alive.
Right.
And there's no way they are. So the two names are Kurt Cobain and Princess Diana.
Right.
I'm not even going to delve into it because it's just...
Kurt Cobain, definitely dead. Princess Diana, again, definitely dead.
Yeah. So the fact that people still think those two are alive...
They are literally tragic deaths.
Yeah. They're kind of marked history and pop culture.
Yeah. I mean, Kurt Cobain, you could almost do a conspiracy theory about him anyway, because... You know why.
Oh, yeah. Allegedly murdered.
Yeah, allegedly murdered by his girlfriend.
Allegedly, yeah.
Allegedly. Yeah. So, I mean, that could even make an episode in itself.
That would be cool.
That'd be cool. Lady Di, obviously, paparazzi, I think, was very much to blame for that one.
Yeah. It's quite sad, that one.
She officially, I think, died in the ambulance, wasn't it, on the way to the hospital?
Yeah. I think, wasn't her chest caved in or something?
Yeah, well, it was a particularly horrendous car crash, wasn't it? But if I remember rightly, only the bodyguard survived completely, and she was still alive when emergency services got to the scene, but obviously unconscious. And I'm only going by my memory here. I haven't done any research, but I think she died in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. And that's kind of a hard way to fake your death.
Yeah, and we have to remember she was probably the most famous person in the world at that time.
At the time, yeah.
So for her to fake her own death, I don't think you could keep that a secret.
No.
There's no way. Someone would have seen something or heard something by now.
There's no way she could have set up a new life for herself as anyone else.
There's no way. Dye her hair brown and it still looks like Princess Diana. So I'm not even going to bother diving into those two. But I have got a few interesting ones that I should just start off by saying that I do think they are dead, but there's kind of credence to some of the stories.
Okay.
So
let's dive in then.
I'm going to kick things off with Jim Morrison. You know Jim Morrison?
The Doors, singer from The Doors, died of, I want to say, drug overdose.
Yeah.
In the bath.
Ooh.
Was found by his girlfriend.
100%.
Yes.
You nailed it.
Come on.
Yeah. Also,
at 27 years old, he was one of the original 27 Club.
Yeah.
Him, Jimi Hendrix, a bunch of others. Kurt Cobain, who we already mentioned.
Yeah.
The old that again could be another podcast. The 27 Club.
Add that to the list.
Might have to.
Amy Winehouse, she's another one.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Mac Miller, poor guy. So, Jim Morrison, as you've said, he was found in 1971 in a bathtub. So, no autopsy was ever performed.
Right.
Which left many questions about how he actually died. His girlfriend at the time, Pamela Courson, believes that he died of a heroin overdose in the bathtub after he unintentionally inhaled the substance believing to be cocaine, while Mary Ann Faithfull alleges that her drug dealer boyfriend, Jean de Bruty,
Right.
I think that's right, killed him.
Right.
There are others, however, who believe the frontman for The Doors never actually died. These conspiracy theories allege that he faked his own death to avoid fame. Ray Manzarek, the founding member and keyboardist, has said that Morrison could have paid his doctor to forge his death certificate, and he has been quoted to saying, him and the rest of the band never actually saw his body.
I mean, yeah, that's fair enough, but Jim Morrison was so narcissistic that I can't see him wanting to avoid fame.
Yeah,
he loved it. He
Yeah, he
loved
did.
being a rock star.
yeah, he was a good frontman.
Yeah, terrible singer, but good frontman.
I'm glad you said that, because I was going to say something controversial. I was going to say, to be honest, I think he's a terrible
My
singer.
opinion, he was a crooner, mate.
Yeah.
Crooner, absolutely.
And the
100%
other
away.
one, I know you agree with me with, is, and I don't want to lose.
I'm going to say
fans
it in
here.
unison. 3, 2, 1.
David Bowie. Yes. Yes. 100%. I think Jim Morrison and Dave. I said Bowie. It's David Bowie.
Bowie. Yeah.
I think they're so overrated.
Yeah, both
and I
of them.
think when you actually listen to them, it's just a bloke talking in a way. It's just kind of drony, miserable. Anyway,
I mean, even Jimi Hendrix didn't have a great singing voice, but he was a legend on guitar, and you've got to give that to him.
you can't deny it. 4 years as well, you told me. God.
Yeah.
So let's dive in. So another one, Michael Jackson.
People think he's still alive?
People think he's still alive.
Okay.
Yeah. So since Michael Jackson's death back in 2009,
He's been seen in North Korea
kind of.
testing nuclear missiles. I don't know.
No blanket for missiles. Leave him alone.
I just want to spread my love to all the world.
Yeah, I think the one person that would avoid nuclear missiles is probably Michael
Yeah,
Jackson.
yeah, it was a complete joke, don't worry.
I was going to get really dark then, but I'm not going to. Nothing was ever...
PG. Let's keep PG.
Nothing was ever... there was no charges pressed against Michael, so we won't go down that
route.
route.
We're not going down that route.
There have been a number of conspiracy theories that have emerged. One of the most popular theories is that the former king of pop faked his own death to escape his crushing debt and mounting legal problems. Back in August 2009, TMZ posted a video of Jackson exiting a coroner's van with the message, "I checked the license plate number and it looks like the king of pop is jumping out of the same van his dead body was taken in." So supposedly TMZ had a video of,
TMZ are quite reputable.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Michael Jackson was in crippling debt. He's worth hundreds of millions. Surely he's got his own theme park in his back garden and everything.
Well, I don't know if you remember, towards the end of his career, he was trying to sell the theme park and stuff, wasn't he?
Oh, was he?
There was a lot of, there was a lot of things coming out about him. Well, the obvious, but he was fighting legal battles with that thing that I don't want to mention, and other stuff. And I'm sure was it the interview with is it Martin Bashir? There was a famous interview.
Well, Oprah Winfrey interviewed him after like 20 years or something of not having a single interview. Oprah, I can remember that was a televised interview. I remember watching that, but I don't remember.
Maybe there was. I'm sure I saw one. I'm sure it was Martin Bashir, and he's just going round like old antique shops. And he's going, yeah, I'll take 3 of those. I'll take 5 of those. And you look at the price tag, and it's like an old gargoyle statue of like a Dalmatian or something. And it's like $15,000. And he's like, yeah, I'll have 3 of those. And so I think towards the end of his career, he might have been in debt or, starting to get that way. I'm not too sure.
I mean, he's sold so many. He's got to be close to, like, this. In sales, he's got to be close to the Beatles and Elvis. Yeah.
But doesn't he own the Beatles?
He owns the copyright to the Beatles, yeah.
So he would have been loaded.
Yeah, surely. I just can't see him faking his death because of crippling debt.
And one of the reasons I think he is actually dead is because Conrad Murray, his doctor, has been charged with manslaughter, and the family are raising his children.
Because his doctor was prescribing him like barbiturates and all sorts of weird stuff, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's pretty much Michael Jackson. Obviously, I think he's dead, but there are people that think he's still alive.
Yeah, fair enough.
Supposedly because of this one video from TMZ.
But Michael Jackson was he's got a fairly distinguishable face, hasn't he? The amount of plastic surgery the guy had.
Yeah, I'd say so.
He's not going to be holding up somewhere like incognito. Yeah. Not without a hell of a lot more plastic surgery.
Yeah. I should just mention as well, you just reminded me, one of the things that goes in with the conspiracy was there was a man called, everyone called him Dave, and everyone thought that it was Michael Jackson wearing a mask because he had these big old eyes and stuff. And it turns out that the poor guy actually was in a fire and he had third-degree burns over like 80% of his body. He'd lost a hand and stuff.
Oh, my God, yeah.
So he knew Michael Jackson, but the reason he had big eyes that everyone was saying, oh, that's definitely Michael Jackson, they got the same eyes, is he had no eyelids because they were burnt off. And, so...
Well, Michael Jackson definitely had eyelids.
Yeah. I think it's absolutely amazing that Michael Jackson started his career as like a really handsome black fella and then ended his career as like a small, weak Asian woman. Like, it's kind of weird.
He did pioneer the face mask of 2020, though, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He was wearing that
before it was even a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So another one is Andy Kaufman. I don't really know Andy Kaufman.
Andy Kaufman from Taxi.
I think so. I don't know who he is.
He's like, Jim Carrey played the film Man on the Moon.
Is that him?
Yeah, Andy Kaufman. That was the story of Andy Kaufman.
I do know who Andy Kaufman is. So
I know he's dead, but I didn't think he'd faked his death. I guess, obviously somebody thinks he did.
Well, he talked about it a lot. He talked about faking his own death.
Right.
So he would tell friends and colleagues and people that I'm going to fake my own death and then I'm going to come back in 20 years, kind of just to mess with people.
Okay. Well, that means he would have come back already by now.
Exactly, yeah. So he actually did die of lung cancer 4 months after he got diagnosed with it. And there were still people that were saying, no, he's faked it, he'll come back. But then when the 20 years elapsed, because this was in 1984,
right,
and he didn't come back, that was when they were like, oh, okay, maybe he is actually.
Yeah, I think that guy, Andy Kaufman, I think is,
so
he's gone.
Yeah, Andy Kaufman, he's probably dead. So,
although he probably was clever enough to actually pull it off.
I don't know much about him, mate, honestly.
You need to go back and watch that Jim Carrey film, Man in the Moon.
Yeah. I read he was just a comedian and an actor.
He never saw himself as a comedian.
Really?
Yeah, although that's basically what everybody assumes he was, but he
Yeah.
never saw himself as a comedian. He was a song and dance man and an actor, but he never actually saw himself as a comedian. He was
Yeah.
just an entertainer.
I did read that he was very scatty and sporadic and like a bit all over the place.
Yeah, and he got some weird beliefs towards the end as well, like religious beliefs and spirituality and stuff like that. So yeah.
So I'm gonna touch on this one. I've got two more for you.
Okay.
So this one is crazy. Elvis Presley.
Died on the John.
Yeah. Yeah, from...
Had too many burgers, had a heart attack on the toilet or something, didn't he?
Yeah, so a medication overdose.
Oh, is that what it was?
Which caused a heart attack in 1977. But many of his devout fans don't believe that he's really dead. There are a few reasons for this. There were some pictures taken of his body in its casket, which didn't look like the king of rock and roll.
Because they shaved his sideburns off, probably.
Yeah, and a lot of his fans said it was a wax dummy. It wasn't a real body.
Well, an embalmed body does kind of look a bit waxy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, especially in the 70s. I imagine it's not quite up to scratch. Another reason is his middle name.
Aaron.
Which is the same reason my middle name is Aaron, or as my dad says, Aaron, is misspelled on his gravestone. So
is it?
Yeah, so that's another reason people believe he's not actually dead. And others believe he is alive because an insurance policy he took out with Lloyd's was never cashed in. That's another reason.
That's just poor estate management, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Priscilla or whatever just didn't bother thinking she got so many millions. She probably didn't think it was worth it.
And the biggest reason, apart from alleged sightings of him, which I don't believe, the biggest reason is because he had to give testimony against mafia-connected parties. So that could have been a reason to fake his death.
Okay, yeah. Well, there was like theories that like Frank Sinatra and the whole Rat Pack, Engelbert Humperdinck, even Tom Jones and that were connected to mafia from their Las Vegas, I guess. Show times and that, obviously, Frank Sinatra definitely was very involved with the mafia. Didn't know that about Elvis, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
But I don't think Elvis.
I don't think
faked
so
his
either.
death. He got more to stay alive for.
Yeah, and one of his friends said that one of the reasons he wanted to fake his own death was because he knew his voice was getting weaker and he wasn't looking like his young hot self anymore. So I don't believe that as a reason to fake your own death.
Not like what was he, only about 45 or something like that, wasn't he? He wasn't actually that old when he died. He was just
I mean, Madonna's not hot anymore and she's not really relevant, but she's not faking her own death. Do you know what I mean?
Not yet.
Fingers crossed.
Right, let's move it on then.
Right, the last one, mate. This one, I've probably done the most research on this one.
Yeah.
And it's the most compelling.
The most convincing one, yeah?
Conspiracy.
This is a famous person.
This is.
Celebrity. Celebrities who faked their death.
Yep, this is the top echelon of celebrities faking their death. Tupac Shakur. You know the guy?
I have heard testaments about this, and I'm going to stay 50-50 while you present your case.
Okay.
Because I have heard some convincing arguments that it was a faked death. Yeah. Well, I always just assumed that this rivalry and whatnot, him and Biggie and all that sort of thing, just came to an unnatural head.
Yeah,
he was actually dead, but I've heard some interesting accounts.
Well, shout out to my brother Nathan, because he is a huge 90s hip-hop fan. It's like his genre.
Right.
He loves it. It's the one music genre he is obsessed with. You could play a track from any 90s hip-hop album and he can tell you it. He's obsessed with it.
Right, fair enough.
I sent him some evidence and videos and clips and articles about Tupac being alive. And even he kind of turned his head a little bit and was like, I still think he's dead, but it's interesting.
Yeah,
You've got a point about a couple of things.
Okay.
So for him to kind of be not
that's
swayed, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
for him to take
okay.
notice, it says a lot.
Let's go into it then.
So, Tupac Shakur has been dead for almost 20 years. However, there are people out there who strongly believe that he is still alive. One of the reasons for this would be the nature of his murder. The people who shot him have never been found. And even Suge Knight, who was an old friend of Biggie and Tupac, for people who don't know, who was in the car with him that fateful night, has said that he thinks his friend is still alive. And he says, why do you think no one has been arrested and charged with the murder of Tupac? That's what he said. That's a quote.
That's a very interesting point, yeah.
He also said, whoever knows Tupac knows he's probably on an island somewhere smoking a Cuban cigar.
Yeah, or a big blunt.
Yeah. And another reason that people think Tupac is still alive is because he continued to release music after his death. And this bit is really interesting. 8 of his records have been released after his death, which is more than what he released when he was alive.
8 singles or albums?
8 records, it says.
Yeah, just says records, it doesn't actually specify.
Have been released after his death. So he released more in his death than when he was alive. So then I actually done a bit more of a deep dive on Tupac.
Okay.
And it's compelling. So there is a guy called Akil the MC, and I'm spelling that Akil, the MC.
Okay, so I can find pictures of him for the...
You can.
Yeah, okay.
You can indeed. Now, when you put the 2 pictures next to each other, one, he would be the same age as what Tupac would be if he's still alive.
Okay, yeah.
Not to
20
mention,
years older, yeah.
there is they are spitting image of each other.
Yeah.
Same eyes, same facial structure. What's even more interesting is the bottom row of teeth. There's like a crooked tooth.
He had a crooked tooth, didn't he, on the bottom?
To the right.
Yeah.
And when you get pictures of them side by side, it's exactly the same. The same tooth.
The dental
in the
records
same
might
position.
prove it then.
Yep. So that's another thing. Now, there was a guy called Michael Nice, and you can look this article up on NME.
Yeah,
and
I've heard of Michael Nice.
Michael Nice was Tupac's main bodyguard.
Right, yeah.
He was there, allegedly, he was there the night of the
shooting, yeah.
He claims to have helped Tupac set the whole thing up, and he also, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. He claims that Fidel Castro, the president of Cuba, had an arrangement with Tupac and helped him get smuggled into Cuba.
Fair play.
So they had some sort of deal going on where if they could pull this off, he could reside in Cuba safely without fame and without being bothered.
Fair play. But he had to pay a fair bit for that, though.
Yeah.
That would have taken a bit of wealth to do it. Like you said, you can't do it without monetary resources to start with.
And that's what's even more interesting is this guy, Michael Nice, had death threats. When Tupac died, he had death threats himself, and they were getting quite serious and quite ramped up.
Yeah.
So to prove a point on how easy it would be to fake your own death, he actually done it himself. Successfully for a couple of years until he emerged and decided to come out and be like, look, this is how easy it was to prove and to fake my own death. Now imagine what Tupac could do with 100 times more money than I did, and I managed to do
surely
it for a couple
if he's I'm going to just playing devil's advocate here, but sure, if he helped Tupac set it up, and then obviously went and did it himself, faked his own death, 2 years later come out and said, look, this is how you do it, surely he knows where Tupac is, and if he really wanted to prove it, he'd just go over to this Akil guy and go, hey Akil, remember me? Well, let's take a selfie together. Yeah, there you go. There you go, everybody. This is Tupac. But I guess out of respect for his previous employer, he would never do that. But then why would he go publicly announce that Tupac has done it?
Yeah.
You know, it's a weird one.
It is a very weird one. But Tupac, I believe that he is alive. Like, and
Yeah,
I'm telling people now listening to this, you need to go see the pictures of Kill the MC. Now,
you did show me the pictures earlier, and
Yeah.
I do agree they are very, very compelling.
Now, that's just what I believe. Now, Kill the MC will tell you he's not Tupac. But that's what someone would say if they wanted to fake their own death successfully.
Of course they would, yeah.
And get out of the limelight. But I should just mention, Kill the MC does make music. He's like a DJ.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier, didn't he do videos or something? And he always keeps any tattoos or anything that he's got, or that Tupac had, covered up and out of sight.
Supposedly, yeah. Wears long sleeve tops. And yeah, because that would be the decider, I suppose, if he had the same
Tupac
tattoos.
had some very recognisable tattoos, particularly on his chest.
But then I've also heard that he had a lot of them lasered off, and you can go down the rabbit hole on this, and you're not going to get any closer to the truth.
No,
but
you're not.
I would just urge people to, if you're listening to this now and you're thinking, how close does this guy look? Just type in Kill the MC.
It is uncanny.
And it is ridiculous. Like, I know everyone in the world has a doppelganger, but I strongly, just me personally, I strongly believe that is Tupac. And
Fair enough.
Just the coincidences and the research that I've
Well,
looked
at
up.
that then, should we put it to the paranormality scale?
Yeah.
So we've got the people that tried it and failed.
Yeah.
We've got the people that everybody thinks faked their own death, but probably didn't.
Yeah, they're probably still dead.
And then we've got Tupac.
Yeah.
And now that is an interesting... I think Tupac, out of all of them, is the one that we could put to the scale and say, oh, how do we rate this?
Because that is full-on conspiracy there. And
That is...
the difference is with Tupac is that there is this other person out there.
Exactly, yeah. No one out there looked like Elvis or looked like Lady Di or anything like that. But that too, and I know because you showed me the picture earlier, that he is an absolute spitting image
Yeah.
of Tupac. And yeah, that is an interesting one. I'd probably go in strong around about 8 flat.
8
on
flat.
that one.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. If it's just the conspiracy theory of like Tupac, I would give it like an 8.
The rest of them, like John Darwin, obviously failed.
Yeah.
I mean, it obviously happened. But I'd give him like a 2 because it's a good attempt, but better luck next time.
Yeah.
But Tupac, I think you've got a case on that one, so I'm going in with a strong 8.
Well, I'm going to take the other failures and stuff into consideration because the scale this week with this subject is difficult to navigate.
Yeah, and it's difficult to put to the scale, yeah.
It's very difficult. So it's like you can't really go by believability because people have done it. They've failed. Some have been successful for years. It's all over the place. But, not to get sidetracked, but if we're just going off of Tupac, I agree with you. It's got to be an 8. But if I take the other failures and stuff into consideration, I'm giving it a 6.5.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean. Just that one strong case of Tupac potentially being alive isn't enough for me to go, oh, well, the whole subject
you're right. I mean, because like the Michael Jackson and Elvis and everything, obviously, that's a load of bull, isn't it?
Yeah.
They are dead. I mean, there's zero believability in them faking their own death. But Tupac, I think, definitely has a case.
Yeah. So therefore...
So, yeah, if that's going to knock down to 6.5 for you, I'm staying on the 8.
Yeah.
Because, like I say, I disregard the rest of them, apart from the people who tried and failed. But again, they're very believable. They did it, So, yeah, I'm sticking at 8, and that would put our average at 7.25.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's fair.
That is fair, mate. So I've enjoyed looking at this and researching it, and I've always just found people faking their own death slightly interesting. So it's not really paranormal.
It's a morbid thing to say.
Well, it's just more of like the thought of doing it is just so bizarre to me. It's like, how? Why? Like, it just led to more questions and things, and it's just, I don't know, it's just a quirky little conspiracy theory that I've always just kind of pondered about. So I thought I'll have a look. And
fair enough.
Yeah. So
Well, if you at home agree with us or disagree with us, let us know. Write a comment or write us an email, paranormality.uk@gmail.com. We always love to hear your thoughts and opinions. If you know somebody that faked their own death, let us know. If you're planning to fake your own death, probably best not to let us know.
It doesn't work. You will get caught.
But good luck with that. And until then, I've been Pirate.
I'm Josh.
And this has been Paranormality UK. Ta-ta.
Ta-ta.